What's going on, everybody? Impromptu Monday night live stream. Try to get it in time before the national title game goes on. Jason with Vish, Leo from Sport. Oh, nope, not that. Leo from Fortnite, Jordan, Javi, and Akash again, man. Fellas, we'll go around and we'll try to keep it, as quick as we can, right? As long as we stay under the construct, because there is a game that everybody wants to watch at this point, right? So, let's just start. Let's just start with the big thing. I think everybody in this room, because I speak with you guys a lot, I think that we kind of understand that the Deshaun Watson thing is just hypothetical for now, right? Like we really can't say that we see it happening immediately, right? Like it's not something that's imminent or something that, right? Like we're just going to think in this hypothetical world, right? Is what has been floated out there about Deshaun Watson too much for him? And I'm gonna start. Let's start with Jordan. Jordan, what is it too much to ask? What is it? Ben Albright reports. What is it? 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and a player, or something like that. Somebody correct me. Okay, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and a player. That's a lot. It's a lot for a guy who's not on a rookie deal. Jordan, talk me through it real quick.
Yes, in a vacuum, yes. The issue that I have is the 3rd first. I would easily give up 2 firsts, especially I've talked about moving up in this draft, giving up number 12. You give up a future first. I would easily do that. The seconds, while they do carry tremendous value, if they are getting comp picks, if Saleh leaves, and they do still have some picks in round 3, somewhere in that part of the draft the next couple of years, I don't think it stings as much. For me, I would have a hard time saying yes just due to that 3rd first. As we were just talking about with Kobe, my biggest thing is the flexibility that you get financially from having 5 years of a cost-controlled player and the ability to pivot off of that, like they just did with Buckner, where they moved off of that deal after right when it started to become expensive. They moved off. They got a guy in Kinlaw. While he isn't the same caliber of player, they're maintaining financial flexibility. So as much as I do think that I would make it if it was 2 firsts and 2 seconds, or 2 firsts and a few seconds and third. The 3rd first is what really gets me, because they're going to sacrifice financial flexibility down the road. And as much as I love Deshaun Watson, if he were to get hurt or something were to happen to him and he is not on the field playing, all of a sudden you're in a position where you lose the flexibility that you've gained by sacrificing a player of Buckner's caliber. And it kind of goes back against some of the moves they made before. And, they've wasted so many picks in the last few years that I think that it is just foolish to put all of your eggs in one basket if the asking price is that high.
Okay. Leo, talk me through it real quick.
Personally, I will do it. I think the 5th-year option is a great point on this. But who really plays under a 5th-year option anymore? Players get re-up after that 4th year. And when I look at the possibility of where those picks would be, having a Deshaun Watson on this team, you're talking about 26th overall and later. That's probably the main reason why I'll do it. This team's going to be a Super Bowl contender every single year. Even if they have a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo next year, they're not going to be in a position where they are now, having that flexibility of moving up from 12 to 5 for a future quarterback. And that's where I would do it. It's 1 extra first for me is not going to break the deal, because when you look at the 49ers first round picks from the past, they've been about 50-50. They haven't been all home runs. It hasn't been 80% where they've been studs. It's been about 50-50. The book's still out on Kinlaw. I think he'll be good, but we'll see. So it hasn't been shoo-ins, day 1 starters, guys that you're going to re-up for a second contract in the league. And I will not let a 1 extra first round pick keep me from having a Deshaun Watson on my team.
Akash?
I would ask, what are the alternative options, right? And that's what the 49ers are going to face this offseason. And you're going to have to look at, all the other veteran options, right? Is a Matthew Stafford available? What do you have to trade to get him? Does Dak Prescott not get a long-term deal with the Cowboys? Can you then go sign him? What potential rookie quarterback slides to 12, or what's the value to like move up in the draft? It's like an economic exercise in my opinion, and I don't think it can just be answered by saying, okay, here's the price for Deshaun Watson. Would you pay that, right? Do I get a comparable or slightly worse player at a less price? Then you have to like weigh out all those options. So it's hard to just answer that question in a vacuum. But when you just say 3 firsts and like 2 2s or whatever, that's a lot of assets for Deshaun Watson. I mean, one player, quarterback, just given his age, given that he's, cost controlled, all that kind of stuff, but that's still a lot of talent potentially to give away for a franchise quarterback, in my opinion.
Okay. Vish?
So there's 2 sides to this question. For the Houston Texans, no, that's not too much. That might even be too little. Deshaun Watson's one of the 5 most marketable players in the NFL. So, yeah. From the 49ers, absolutely, it's too much. Look, it's not just Deshaun Watson that you're bringing in with the draft capital. It's his contract that you have to take into account. And I think this is the detail that everybody's missing. Deshaun Watson's cap hit next year would only be $15.4 million, which means that in 2021, theoretically, if the Niners brought him in, right, you would be thinking Super Bowl or bust. But guess what happens in 2022? All the contracts that they backloaded because, right, the reason they didn't want to sign DeForest Buckner is because he was a front-loaded contract. Eric Armstead is backloaded. Eric Armstead is going to be a $20 million cap hit in 2022. Deshaun Watson is going to be a $40 million cap hit in 2022. Jimmy Ward is going to be around $11 million in 2022. And you bring in all these guys when you throw in Fred Warner, who would still be on his rookie deal in 2021. In 2022, his cap hit, I'd estimate, would be like $18 million. And you put in all these things. If they don't win in 2021, the Super Bowl, then they become every single team that we talk about that has a great quarterback and a great coach, but not enough on their roster to win a Super Bowl. So while I get what Leo's saying, right, because theoretically Deshaun Watson, Kyle Shanahan, I think we all agree, fantastic fit, would technically be a Super Bowl contender every year. They would be like the Packers have been, for years, where you think they can make the Super Bowl just because they have Aaron Rodgers, but in reality, their roster isn't there, and they wouldn't be able to fill out that roster because, 1, all the draft capital would be gone, right? If it's 3 1s and 3 2s, and 2, there's no cap flexibility in order to just sign people or get people on the bargain like that.
Okay, Javi.
Crazy concept. I don't know, to draft Deshaun Watson when you had the opportunity. That was, do your job better, Kyle Shanahan. Scout the incoming quarterback class, and that's where you're at now. Now you've missed on Kirk Cousins. You lost that opportunity. You accept you weren't in love with Jimmy Garoppolo, and now you're stuck with him essentially. That's what he comes off as. I'm kind of with Vish here. Yes, Houston would take it. The Niners probably shouldn't, because I'm looking at the future of this roster. Like you said, come 2022, what does Trent Williams' contract look like? What does Eric Armstead? He mentioned Eric Armstead contract. Jimmy Ward, $11 million for a safety. Eesh. And then you're looking at Fred Warner, who deserves all the money in the world, but you're looking at 5-6 guys who are taking up more than 60-70% of your cap, and you're in a bad shape. So as much as I would love to have Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at the alternatives, like Akash said. I'm looking at what does Matthew Stafford cost to get? Does Trey Lance fall to 12? Does Justin Fields fall? Does he play bad tonight? Sam Darnold, is he available? What about Carson Wentz? What do we do there? There's other options. As much as I would love Deshaun Watson, and I think he would thrive here, and I think that would be Super Bowl or bust for the 2021 season, it's not smart for the Niners to do it. And as much as I was excited about it, like, yeah, let's do it, when you really sit back and think about it, what do you do with Deebo Samuel in 2 years? What do you do with Brandon Ayuk when his contract is due? Nick Bosa needs to get paid.
Bosa,
you're running out of money. It's just, for me, it's like, hey, Kyle, do your job better, scout better, go and make sure you're evaluating every quarterback in this class correctly and checking out the alternatives like Stafford, Wentz, Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, whoever else is out there. That's for you, Jordan.
Right.
No,
so if you
no Darnold either.
I would need some sort of guarantee that bringing Deshaun Watson here would win 1 or 2 Super Bowls, because even that's still not guaranteed, right? Things happen, so that's the thing, right? You push your chips all the way to the middle for Deshaun Watson and you think, yes, this is going to be a championship, but that's not how things work out in this league, right? So here's the thing. You take that swing And then what? Now you're in cap hell. So again, it's really goes to Javi's point where, the fan in me is just like, send the farm, bring him in. I don't care. Let's get it done. Like the tortured fan in me wants to see a Super Bowl. The analyst that I'm trying to be now says that this isn't wise for all those reasons that pretty much everybody here has labeled. And Nick Bosa's, like I talked about with Jordan just before. If Joey Bosa is asking for 100, Nick Bosa is going to walk in and say, "Give me 130, give me 140, give me 150."
Exactly.
Like
he's getting $30 million a year,
right? And he's worked every bit of it. So I understand. I've made the point myself. Franchise quarterback can lift up things that are not performing at a high level, right? So if the defense slips a little, the franchise quarterback scores more points for you, right? Like these are all things like, Kansas City doesn't have a great defense, but like Jordan said, they can hang 50 on you whenever they feel like it. Like that's different, but you don't want to play that game down the line, especially when you have this core of people, I'm not sure, somebody can remind me real quick. What's Kittle's cap hit, going forward, right? Like, well, that's another thing, and then you're talking about Bosa, then you're talking about Armstead. Like these are decisions you have to make. If you move Watson, now you have to really make tough decisions on other people who have already had contracts in place.
Part of me wishes that this scenario came up last year.
Yeah.
You send DeForest Buckner for 13. You have pick 31. There's your 2 first. I'm sending that to Houston plus this year's first. There's your 3. And that's why the Miami package probably is the best package because they have 3, right. 18, next year's first. Send Tua and his left-handed throwing motion over to Houston. And you're good to go. But if this would have come up last year, I think the Niners pull the trigger without hesitation. Don't even think twice about it. Here's the 3 1s. Here's 2 2s. We'll send you Jimmy and his really small cap hit, and we're good to go. But now it's 1 year too late. Kyle seems to be 1 year too late on a lot of things. Josh Allen, I wish he came out early. Now we're with Deshaun Watson and this stuff. Like, I'm just getting frustrated now.
All right. So real quick before we get my bad.
Last thing, just what it sounds like is a rookie quarterback on a cheap contract with this team.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you get in a Sam Darnold, you're probably not giving him the 5th-year option, right? So he's got 1 year, and 1 year under Kyle Shanahan could inflate his market to $30 million the next season. So that's not even really an option as well.
Right. So the other thing is didn't Russell Wilson win a Super Bowl on a rookie contract?
Yep.
That's the thing, right? Like there's something to be said about there's something.
7 of the last 20 have been rookie quarterbacks or rookie,
right.
Not rookie quarterbacks, but players on their rookie contract.
Players on a rookie contract, yeah.
Right. So those first 4 years, those first 5 years are imperative. If you're going that route, those are imperative to win them because then you have to pay that man, right? So, I don't know if anybody else had anything to add.
Vish, regarding Leo's point on Darnold. I'm actually out on Darnold for a different reason, and it's not because Kyle Shanahan could inflate his value. It's more the contract thing that you brought up. So Darnold, the way his contract works, right, is they got to make the decision on his 5th-year option this year. That 5th-year option is going to pay him around $25 million, which is a lot of money to pay a quarterback. Nobody's taking that right now based on what he showed. So the problem is you would have a 1-year evaluation on Sam Darnold. And the question is, could you do that evaluation quick enough? I mean, bringing him in, he looks like a guy that needs to be kind of re-nurtured, and Kyle Shanahan needs to sit down and reset himself as a person and as a football player. And basically, you wouldn't have the flexibility with him financially because there's not enough time either. So after that 1 year, you might not have him play a lot, and say, let's sign him for $15 million, or maybe he plays terrible, then you miss out on him and you gave up a pick for nothing. Or maybe he pays great, but now you got to pay Sam Darnold $35 million, which is what Leo outlined. So for those reasons, I just think the money flexibility means rookie quarterback, start fresh with that. Give me that fresh money and let's go sign Trent Williams. Let's go sign Jason Verrett and try to stack this roster around a really talented young guy.
So real quick before we, close out this conversation, right? And I'll go around, just one word answer, yes or no. Vish, does this deal ever get done?
Which deal? Deshaun Watson?
For Watson.
Yeah, no.
No? Leo?
I said both.
No,
I could have swore you were from California with that. Yeah, no. I'm going no. It doesn't happen. I think it's something to monitor every single year. But this offseason, he's going to go as a Houston Texan. He's not moving.
Akash?
Hell no. Well, he's not in San Francisco.
All right. Javi?
Not in San Francisco, no.
Jordan?
No, and I don't think he ever requests the trade, to be honest. At least this year, in this calendar year, I don't think he requests the trade. I think he'll get over it fairly soon.
Okay. I'm glad that we were able to waste 15 minutes on a trade that's never going to happen, but I'm glad that we were able to at least give insight because we're all in lock and step here that I don't think that this happens. It was a fun few days. I enjoy making memes about it, but realistically, go ahead, Avi.
Just to be contrarian here, if for some reason it goes nuclear with Watson and Houston is kind of forced to let him out of that or forced to trade him, and the price comes down, and that price is 2 1s and 2 2s, I think we all can agree that's probably something that you would do, right?
Next offseason, 100%.
Yeah, next offseason, or even, yeah, I mean, or right even now, after the draft. Like something happens after the draft, and it's like, you know what? I went out. I can't get along with this head coach. This GM situation is bad in Houston. The culture is just shitty, whatever it is, and he wants out. And you got a team who's out there who has the picks to do it.
You would be.
I don't think it
would
does.
he even be. The question is, can you even move him next offseason?
Not with that
$40
contract.
million cap hit.
Yeah,
this is the year he can be moved.
They have to do it before June 1st, right?
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. Yeah,
I think he'll stay.
All about timing.
All right. Well, I mean, this is a good discussion, though. Like I said, a trade that we don't think is going to happen, but I think it's on the minds of 49ers fans. It's on the mind of myself. Like I made a joke, the night that all this stuff came out, like at 1 a.m. when I went to get something to drink at the refrigerator, the 49ers have won their 8th straight Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson at the helm in my mind. Like we had we had beaten the Chiefs 7 straight years because they're the only team that make it. And, again, this is imagination land. But anyway, that was nice to talk about, right? So I guess, we can dive into some college quarterbacks if you guys want, because nobody's discussing those things, right? Everybody's arguing about kickers on the timeline. So, Akash, let me start with you. At 12, realistically, no trades. Do you see any of these top 4 guys sitting at 12 for them, or do the 49ers have to make a move if they want one of their guys?
So Trevor Lawrence definitely not going to be there. He's going to go number 1. My guess is, depending on how Justin Fields plays tonight, he could lock himself into the number 2 spot, I think, or at least be the second quarterback taken. I mean, that would be a historic run, beating Clemson the way they did, and then coming back and beating Nick Saban for a natty would be outstanding. So he could lock himself into that number 2 spot tonight. He'd be out of San Francisco's reach. And then you start looking at who else needs a quarterback and who else could potentially move up. My guess is if the 49ers just stay at 12, the only name that'll be there is Trey Lance. I think the other 3 guys would be gone. And I don't know if Kyle Shanahan would like him or what, but I think that's the only guy that would be still there on the board.
Okay. Vish?
Yeah, I think Akash basically laid out what's probably the likeliest scenario, and that Trey Lance is there at 12. I'm still holding out for a scenario that might be unlikely, and you just ship the 12th pick over to our friends at Detroit, and they just give us Matthew Stafford, and we're all
Vish. Look at how much Vish is smiling. This lets you know right off the bat what Vish wants more than anything, and it's to see number 9 over there. And Robbie Gold, you're giving that number up, Robbie Gold.
No, he would probably be 7.
Yeah, because 7 was his favorite number, and then apparently they handed him 9. But yeah, I mean, whatever he wants, he can have it. Matthew Stafford can have any number he wants. If he wants to wear 85, wear it. No, he can't wear 85. 88, he can wear 88. But the point is, I'm still holding out hope for that. But I think the more likely scenario is what Akash laid out, and then it comes down to how much they like Trey Lance, and whether there's a defensive lineman or an edge rusher that they're not enamored with at 12, because I still think that that's a need. I still think it's a premium position, and I still think that it would be worth the 12th overall pick, quarterback or not.
Okay. Jordan.
So I think that Vish made a really good point. If I'm the 49ers, I'm calling Detroit and I'm seeing what their interests are, because if I'm Detroit and I realize that Stafford probably isn't happy and it just doesn't make sense going through a total rebuild to have a quarterback at that age making that kind of money, I would immediately get on the phone with John Lynch and try and get that 12th pick for Stafford. You could take the QB you want at 7. Maybe Zach Wilson's still there. Maybe they like Trey Lance. I do think that Fields and Lawrence will obviously be gone by then. But if they could somehow get the 7th pick and then they could take whoever they would have taken at 7 at 12, not exactly the same, but going 5 spots back, they're still going to get a plus blue chip player most likely. and it comes off as a rare win-win trade for me. The only quarterback I really still see being there is Trey Lance, but my biggest worry is Denver. My worries are slightly less now that John Elway is no longer the guy directly making those personnel decisions, because I could see him easily falling in love with a big quarterback with a big arm with some plus mobility. But
he's not 6'6", though. He's not 6'6". John Elway isn't going to take him.
But to me, my biggest concern is that the only one left would be Lance. And with Carolina and, Teddy Bridgewater was, as much as I love Teddy Two Gloves, great comeback story, his efficiency was awful. And he had good weapons. He had Joe Brady as his coordinator. There aren't very many excuses you could make for how bad he played. He does have a pretty significant cap hit next year, but I definitely could see Carolina picking somebody. So realistically, I think Lance is the only one who does fall in the 49ers' laps at 12. But even then, I really wouldn't count on it. So I'm 100% with Vish. I'm on the phone with Detroit trying to make a trade. I would throw in 12 with no hesitation. I'd send them Jimmy too if they need a placeholder for the meantime. I would have no problem flipping 12 and Jimmy for Stafford straight up.
It's funny you say that, because in Zach Wilson's interview that Javi posted like last week, the two teams or the two offenses he mentions are Kyle Shanahan and Joe Brady, assuming he stays in Carolina. Yep. So yeah, those are the two names that Jordan had just hit on.
Yep. Leo?
Yeah, I think Trey Lance will be there, because I look at it from this way. He came from a small school and basically had an entire year off after playing what a lot of people like to say nobodies, while he was playing with nobodies on his side as well. So I guess we're going to ignore that factor. But he played one game this year, and he didn't play particularly well that one game either. So I think that's what's going to cause him to be there at 12. And as much as I would love Stafford, we've just went over the whole cap situation. It's going to be so hard to keep Trent Williams. It's going to be so hard to keep Jason Verrett, Kerry Hyder. I looked at Kerry Hyder's quarterback hit percentage, and it was actually better than Chase Young's this past season. So he played at a high level. If they could keep those three players, it's a win. You cannot keep those three players and still bring in Stafford. I think Kyle Shanahan would rather go with a Dalton and Lance look, because there's no way he's going to go in with no established veteran. It cannot be just Lance. And I look at as a guy, Lance is being a Shanahan quarterback. He can run. He's not a running back like this whole narrative that got created out of nowhere. He can throw the deep ball. He could throw across the field. This dude's got a strong arm, and he does have occasional accuracy issues. So does Jimmy Garoppolo. Kyle Shanahan limits this offense that Jimmy Garoppolo could go 13-3 with 27 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Why can't Trey Lance? He has much more arm talent, throwing to guys who are going to be schemed open like they were in 2019. So I think you got to take that rookie contract with a veteran that's going to be less than $10 million.
Javi?
I think everyone makes good points. Part of me is looking at the Stafford thing. If the biggest concern is Denver and Carolina, Joe Brady, and does Adam Peters take that Carolina job? We all know he's been offered that. We all know that there's been some speculation that he's been interviewed and offered. And then of course Denver, are they sold on Drew Lock? I don't think so. What does Dallas do with their quarterback position? Do they let Dak walk out the door? You got three teams right before we pick that could potentially take a quarterback if he's there. So I would send the pick to Detroit if that is an option. And I'm also looking at the 2022 salary cap. They're all projecting it to be in the 220s. So according to Over the Cap, Stafford's new team in 2022 would be $23 million cap hit for Matthew Stafford, which is still cheaper than Jimmy Garoppolo's number in 2022. So you're able to work this out. In 2021, he would be $20 million cap hit, which is still about $5 million less than Jimmy Garoppolo. Vish is very excited about this. I'm sorry, pre-June 1st trade would be $10 million for Stafford. So that's still $15 million less. That's how you can keep a Trent Williams. That's how you can go ahead and potentially keep a Jason Verrett. I don't know if Kerry Hyder's back. I don't see him getting a huge contract. I know his sack percentages and stuff was really high. I thought he played really well. I mean, he's a 30-year-old guy who's been around the league a lot. I don't know how much he's really going to get elsewhere. And he could follow Saleh. That could be something that's fine. And I'm all in on this Jordan Willis kid. So that's another way you can play money ball for guys who are going to be depth pieces, and you're still counting on Nick Bosa. But if I'm the Niners and all the other draft players, all the other players are gone, and you got enough word through this draft process that Lance is probably going to be gone by 7 or 8, then yeah, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Detroit. I'm like, listen, Matthew doesn't want to be there. His wife doesn't want to be there. Like, listen, let's make this marriage work for a couple of years, and it doesn't prohibit the Niners from looking at their future draft or future quarterback in a year or so.
Right.
We all know about Kyle Shanahan and the QB collective. That kid DJ out of Clemson. They have Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. They have some other options, and he's familiar with some of these players. So, if I had to rank it, I'm going to go Stafford, rookie, and then Andy Dalton in a rookie. Like, that's just kind of how I would do it.
Okay. Akash, it looked like you were going to jump in real quick. Yeah.
I was going to say, with Stafford's deal, even though his cap hit in 2022 is like little, I doubt he goes into that year without an extension. So assume he gets traded and plays good, he plays well with Shanahan, there's no chance on hell he steps on the field going into the final year of his contract with that cap hit. So he'd be extended. Maybe they lower that cap hit. So that would be the one thing. Also, part of me, like the fan part of me, really wants like a homegrown quarterback and not like someone else that you trade for and someone that you like develop and someone that resonates with the franchise. But that's more of a selfish wish, I think.
I think
Right.
part of what my thought process with the Stafford thing is capitalizing on this roster as it is constructed right now before you have to pay everybody. Bosa, Fred, Debo, Ayuk. You already paid Kittle. You have the weapons here. You're going to pay Trent Williams. Get this Super Bowl run in the next 2 years. And if you can get that with Stafford, do it. But I'm also agreement with you, Akash. Is like I just want to just draft a guy already. Like let's do this, Kyle. Like enough. Rip the Band-Aid off with Jimmy Garoppolo. I can survive a year or two without a deep playoff run. Like, come on. I'm 34 years old. Last time I saw him win a title, I was 8. It's all right. Like, let's just get this thing done the right way the first time. You should have did that 3 years ago with Watson or Mahomes. Just frustrating at this point.
So
I mean,
I'm with
you guys have all made great points. I mean, but go ahead, Vish, you got it, bro.
No, so I thought Javi just laid it out beautifully. And the thing that, like, I'm with you, Akash. Like, we all want the homegrown quarterback. And the reason I'm really attached to Matthew Stafford, too, is that I think the problem with the 49ers right now is that they don't have a lot of assets in 21-22. Matthew Stafford basically delays that problem because he'll be very good and the Niners will be very good with him at quarterback. Well, now when you get into 2023-24, like, you can extend Matthew Stafford, but you could also do what the Chiefs did and make him play his last deal and trade up and go get your guy, sit him for a year and have him play the year after. He just gives the Niners so much flexibility. His contract is quite cheap, and you can be convinced from day one that with Kyle Shanahan, he's going to be an MVP level player, which you can't be convinced of with anything, with any of the quarterbacks you draft. And then the other thing too, and I'm going to say this, like, I need to always reiterate this, even at 33, he has more physical talent than every single quarterback coming out this year than Trevor Lawrence. This is one of the greatest arms in NFL history. This is one of the most talented quarterbacks I've ever seen in my lifetime. That arm is special. He is really special still at 33 physically.
100%. And yeah, I mean, you guys kind of took the next segment because that was going to be my point. It's just, if at 12, like you said, if you had the intel at 12 that Trey Lance isn't going to be there, as of right now on January 11th, I think Trey Lance may be there because of all the things that Leo laid out, right? Whenever I talk to people about Trey Lance, the only thing that they ever tell me is, well, I've never seen enough of him. He's only played one game. Okay, but, like, I understand that part, but you knocking a player down because you've never seen them play is kind of an insult to his talent. Right? It's like, what did you see when he did play? Not how come he hasn't played, right? So if we find out, throughout the process, because it is January, and, Akash laid it out on one of the last streams that we had, check in May and check in on March, check in April when people are doing their mocks and they look completely different from what they look like in December, right? So we don't know what's going on right now, but that was going to be my point. If Trey Lance isn't there, then you definitely have to make the call to Matthew Stafford. Like, it fits too much. Right. And let's, can we dispel one more narrative on here that I feel like we've been dispelling, but I just see it too much. So I just want to make sure it's out there. Matthew Stafford is not injury prone.
No.
He plays through injuries. The man in his last game this year had nothing to play for. His arm was his limbs are falling off of his body, and he comes out and he throws 3 tutties, and it's a laser show between Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford. Like, that right there shows you what type of person Matthew Stafford is. He could have told them easily the entire week, I'm not playing. I don't care. What does it matter? But he goes out there and he plays because that's what football players do.
With Lance, it's like, everyone's, like you said, there's not enough film on him. There's plenty of film that shows me that he was better than Josh Allen in his final year at Wyoming. Like, he has more. It's not that he's better than Josh Allen. What I'm saying is
not better arm talent.
He's a little bit more polished or a little bit more refined than Josh Allen was coming out of college. So
I don't know, because I remember watching. Because real quick though, because I think Josh Allen at Wyoming always needed context, and the context that he never got was that, one, the weather is crappy in Wyoming, so he played like 8 games in horrible wind. 2, they played he had no offensive line, no protection, no receiver help his final year. And 3, they made him throw the ball down the field every single play. So of course his stats and all his polish is going to look bad because he's trying very difficult throws every time he throws. So I don't think that Lance is better than Allen coming out, but I do agree with your point on Lance.
Real quick, before I cut to Jordan, I wanted to talk about this real quick. If you want to know he gets paid because there's millions of dollars, ask Jimmy G. Jordan, you're up.
So real quick, let's say hypothetically, I just want to hear what you guys think about this. Let's say hypothetically the Lions aren't moving Stafford. They're not going to do it. And there's no quarterback. The intel the Niners are getting is that there isn't going to be a quarterback there. What do you guys think about calling Dallas? Dallas is picking 10th. If they were somehow looking, Dallas has a lot of money on the books. With Zeke, they give Cooper that contract. I know there's an out in the next couple of years. They're going to have to pay Gallup. I'm wondering if Dallas has any interest in one of those guys higher up in the draft, Zach Wilson, Fields. Maybe if they could move up to that area and they would be happy getting a rookie deal moving back, would you give 12 this year and a first next year to move up, and then Dallas hypothetically could take those picks and package to move up to get their rookie? Is that something that you'd want to do?
Real quick before I let you guys answer, yes, Adrian, you just kind of made my point, right? Like, Matthew Stafford played in a meaningless game because he's tough and he makes millions of dollars. Jimmy G didn't play in how many games because he's soft and he makes millions of dollars. Sorry.
I don't know if he's soft. I would just say he's protecting his best interests, and to pretend that he's hurt is whatever. We could talk about that on a different segment, but he didn't play because he knew there was a possibility his long-term future with the team was going to be cut, so he just didn't want to go out and play.
Right. My bad. Didn't mean to deviate from the point.
To answer Jordan, yes, I'm absolutely calling Dallas Cowboys about Dak Prescott. That is another quarterback that I liked. That is another quarterback that this franchise missed on. He said no to. Like, we have a problem here. Like, scout these guys correctly and go get one. Like, this is nonsense at this point. Dak, now Watson, who else did, Josh Allen? Like, come on. Could Kyle and John get this right? Or Kyle and Adam Peters, whoever's running the show over there, get it right.
That's the thing. And you know what's funny with the Dak thing? Because Vish is the one who pointed this out to me. They didn't go for Dak because of the optics of how bad that DUI looked. And that team was already filled with people who were in jail and stuff like that. Like, but imagine taking all those chances on all those guys who had red flags during that time, right? This isn't the same regime, but just like, it's sad that you continue to miss on the quarterbacks it's always a different reason. We didn't go scout him. Oh, he had a DUI. It's always something with this regime. So you can understand this fan base's frustration with trying to find a quarterback with the quarterback search as it's gone. When you hear, I never scouted Watson or Mahomes because you thought Kirk Cousins was coming. Sorry, hold your ears, Vish and Jordan. I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything like that. I know you guys are big fans. I'm just
Cousins. I watched him this season. I'm like, that's not bad. I mean, if he was here for 15 games, they'd be playing this weekend.
Correct. For sure. And people don't want to hear that. And I say that all the time. We like to throw jokes at Kirk Cousins, but if Kirk Cousins was here, this team would be in the playoffs, and all of us are pretty much saying that at this point. It's not just one person's opinion.
If Kirk Cousins could just trade in his personality and borrow a personality from somebody else, if that was possible somehow, then I'd be 100% in, because Kirk Cousins is a really good player, especially within this system. Like, how many different offensive coordinators does Kirk Cousins have to produce with before we just say he's a good quarterback? He's been a top 15 quarterback for the last, I want to say, 4 years. He's a really good player. The only problem with him is for quarterbacks of his level cannot be constantly getting disrespected by their teammates. I mean, Adam Thielen just throws him into traffic. Stephon Diggs just leaves him out there for the Wolves to eat him. Everson Griffin is out here taking shots at him in a weekend where Kirk Cousins has zero relevance. So there's something wrong with that guy, that people just don't like him. There's something there.
Tells you how teammates the 49ers are and how good of a locker room they have, that they don't say anything.
And it's funny because like every quarterback, like imagine what Kyle Shanahan can do with this quarterback or that quarterback. It's never imagine what Kyle Shanahan can do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, we have a problem and they need to fix it. And it's
go ahead, Jordan.
I just want to say real quick. I know, like people, like I joke about Trubisky and stuff. Like it's a joke. I hope people realize like it's a joke. But my love for Kirk Cousins is very real, and his efficiency numbers in Minnesota, it's a very similar scheme, but it's not as good of a fit as it is with Kyle. And yet over the last 2 seasons, he's posted a higher EPA per play than Russell Wilson and a higher completion percentage over expected than Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Patrick Mahomes. Like, the guy gets kind of forgotten because exactly like you guys are saying, it's the personality. The guy's a total dork. Like, and he's not somebody that I think people in that locker room respect for many reasons, but I think that's one of them. And a point that I think Vish made earlier that was great about the Texans and why they wouldn't move off of Watson is marketability. The NFL is a business ultimately. And as much as we want to, talk about players on the field and their play, their marketability and their value to a franchise from a monetary standpoint is just as valuable to the people making these decisions than their play on the field, in my opinion. And Kirk Cousins isn't a guy, like, as much as I may, have my issues with Jimmy Garoppolo, they plastered his face. Like, I live down the street from Levi's. You see his face all over these billboards, all over this stuff. He brought this new hope. Nobody's getting jacked up over Kirk Cousins coming. I love him for his play on the field, but I can understand why he doesn't get the love he does, because the guy is just a total dork, with all due respect.
I also think it's his play in prime time, and he gets dogged for it, and some of it's fair, right? When the majority of eyeballs across the country see him play, he hasn't been playing his best. No one sees him play 10 a.m. against like Detroit on a random Sunday, right? So that also plays a role into it. But I agree with what you were saying though. Ryan Tannehill in the same boat.
So two things.
Oh my God, Jordan's face. Why did you say so?
I'm a Tannehill, if you will. So I'm a big Tannehill guy.
God.
But the thing with Kirk Cousins, 2 things. One, I think the primetime thing is so overrated. It's just in record accumulation without going back in and actually watching each individual game and telling me why Kirk Cousins was the reason they lost. If we want to do that exercise, I guarantee you that his record, we couldn't say that the 0-8 or 0-7 or whatever that is on him. And the other thing with him is he brought up the EPA on Kirk Cousins, right? And Kirk Cousins' analytics are always fantastic. But the thing with Kirk Cousins, the other thing that backs it up is watch Kirk Cousins play. We can go through every throw he makes. It's not just, okay, Kirk Cousins doesn't offer much outside of the structure of the offense. But within the offense, Kirk Cousins almost 95% of the time makes the right decision on what the coverage is. And that's why his intellect is so smart, which is why Shanahan loves him, Sean McVay loves him, Matt LaFleur loves him, because he's really smart. So that's why I really think Kirk Cousins is good. Again, just trade in the personality. Somehow, like, if you can do like a personality swap with anybody, if anybody's willing to give their personality to Kirk, let me know. But yeah, it's just that personality.
All right, this has been a great discussion, right? We're getting close to the game time, so let's wrap it up with one more segment. We'll go around the horn one more time, and let's just look. Akash, Vish, Javi, Leo, Jordan. I brought you guys together because you guys forced me to think, right? I don't just spout something off and you guys just say, "Yeah, that's cool that you thought that." You guys are not. You guys are cool with saying, "No, that's wrong," and here's why. And you forced me to think. And the saying about if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room. That's why I get surrounded by you guys. So let's throw logic aside, though. Okay, give me your prediction for who you believe will be the 2021 starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And this should be good because we don't know a lot of things. You can't just make a decision off the top of your head. But all right, let me change it. What would you want them to do? And we'll go around. Let me start with Akash.
You have to start with me. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to give you the cop-out answer again. It's tough because I don't know anything that's going on the other side of the curtain, right? Like, I have zero intel into what any of these guys are going to cost in the trade market. I have zero clue what it would cost to move up in a trade situation for the draft. And at the end of the day, it's an economic exercise, right? If you're John Lynch, Adam Peters, Kyle Shanahan, you get together and you say, okay, here's player X, here's what I think of him, here's what he costs to acquire. And you figure out what's the best value, right? What's the player you like the most that you can get for the least? And I think that's what they end up doing. And I don't think it's Jimmy Garoppolo. That I'm pretty certain on, that he's not necessarily the starting quarterback or the franchise quarterback or whatever you want to call him moving forward. I do think the route that they go is a rookie quarterback because the veteran options, A, will be too expensive or they just won't be available. So I think it's a rookie quarterback. I think it's one of these three guys outside of Trevor Lawrence. I just don't know which one.
Jason, you're muted.
My bad. So that's fair. And to be fair, I didn't preface this and let you guys know that I would be asking you this. I just wanted to come up with one last good question because like I had stuff going, but we all hit all the points like as we went on. So Vish, what do you want this team to do this year?
All right, I'm going to give you two answers. I'm going to first throw logic all aside and put on my LeVar Ball hat and continue to speak it into existence. Matthew Stafford's going to be the quarterback of the 49ers in 2021. I'm just going to keep saying it until it happens, but I want it to happen so bad. And then logically, just by insiders, what they've been putting out, just by based on how much John Lynch, I think, liked Sam Darnold before the draft, I think that if they moved off of Jimmy Garoppolo, which is kind of John Lynch's big move, I think he would have to try and get somebody else that would be a reclamation project that they would save, and then it would all look real good. So I think it would be Sam Darnold. And I wouldn't be happy with that. But it's Matthew Stafford.
You won't be. So I was going to – so you know what? Let's change it. So whatever you say, like I think we could do it like that. Like what do you want them to do? What will they will do? And will you be happy with what they will do? Like I like that actually, Vish. That's pretty good. Leo.
So what I think they'll do – I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo until he's moved. I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo and a rookie quarterback, which is Trey Lance. Something just tells me that they're not going to pull the trigger to move up and that they'll watch enough Lance and be happy with it if he's there at 12. So that's what I think they'll do until they move off of Garoppolo. But if they do, which I would want them to do, because that means if they move off of Garoppolo, theoretically, you're going to be able to afford 3 more starters or 2 more starters on the defense. So Andy Dalton and Trey Lance. I think Andy Dalton can do what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing right now. And if he's worse than Jimmy at this horizontal game, he's not going to be far worse. So that he could probably lead this team to 11-5 because of how Kyle dials up the offense. And this defense is still going to be strong if you get rid of Jimmy, because that means you're probably affording Kerry Hyder. How I look at Kerry Hyder is Everson Griffin didn't get that much money after he had a hell of a year with Minnesota, and he was more accomplished than Kerry Hyder, and he still only came out with like $6 million in free agency. So in a down year, at least what we're expecting, where the cap's not inflating, I would think Kerry Hyder is probably going to be around 7-8. So if you could afford Kerry Hyder, if you could afford Jason Verrett, where teams may be wary that he only had one healthy year in about 5 seasons, you could afford those 2 guys. You're paying Trent Williams. I would rather have that option if that means Jimmy Garoppolo is moving on. Would I be happy with Dalton and Trey Lance? No. But I think year 2, 3, 4, once Lance is starting, then I will absolutely be healthy, because I think Lance does have Josh Allen potential eventually as far as his growth, his elevation of his game. He's not going to be year 3 Josh Allen his first year as a starter. I think he could be year 3 Josh Allen in year 3 as a starter, maybe year 4 as a starter. I think that's where his potential could be.
Yeah, that's and I'm gonna just jump in here with mine because mine is yours. We're the same here with this one. Like I expect them to have a starter and hopefully Lance. That's what I want, and that's what I expect actually too. I want that, but here's the problem: Jimmy Garoppolo makes too much money to be a placeholder. That it becomes essentially wasted money. Okay, now when anybody here says that they're floating out Andy Dalton, No one is telling you that Andy Dalton is going to take this team to the Super Bowl. What it is that he will be far more competent than Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard, and for stretches, Jimmy Garoppolo. You guys hearing me good here? Okay. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo at $27 million to maybe be pulled at the bye week, maybe after week 4 when he struggles, that's a hell of a lot of money to dip down on a guy who's just there to just be a guy who you kind of trust. So in that way, I don't mind the idea of a Dalton and Lance, a Ryan Fitzpatrick and Lance, because they're far cheaper. You can justify the quarterback play when the contract isn't $27 million, right? That's the problem. You can't have Jimmy Garoppolo here holding this spot for someone with the money that he makes, knowing that you're going to move off of him. I don't know how they do it, but I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to be the $27 million guy ahead of Trey Lance.
Jason,
Good.
real quick,
Yeah.
let me just hop in real quick. I actually think you were too nice. Physically, someone explained to me what Andy Dalton is worse at from a physical standpoint than Jimmy Garoppolo. Besides the release, what's worse?
Nothing.
Andy Dalton, when he had Marvin Lewis, Mo Sanu, Marvin Jones, AJ Green, I don't need to tell him to you. Go look at his numbers. They're better than 2019 Jimmy Garoppolo. If you're getting him for $19 million cheaper, $17 million cheaper, this shouldn't really be that much of a conversation. He's not better than Jimmy now. No. But at $18, $20 million or $17 million cheaper, is he more valuable than Jimmy? Probably.
Yes, that's the problem, right? So we're talking about money and everything. So you're talking about a guy who is fairly similar in skill set, might even offer you a little bit more downfield for less money. That sounds like a no-brainer. I think when guys hear Andy Dalton, they think that people are floating out Andy Dalton as the savior to like run them to the Super Bowl. That's not what this is, right? Even if he struggles for a few games, you still have Lance, you can go to him. But I feel far better in that option when it's a guy who's making $7 or $8 million as opposed to $27 million.
Yeah, just real quick. Unfortunately, in the NFL, there's a salary cap, and everyone cannot be the 1998, 1999 New York Yankees.
Hey. See, again, you guys always like taking digs at my guys, man. See, like, look at Javi, right? That was completely uncalled for. And all right, anyway, who did I miss here? Go ahead.
Before we cut to him, I got one scenario that I feel like no one's talking about that would be awesome. I don't think it happens. But Aaron Rodgers loses a Super Bowl and asks out because he's mad about the whole Jordan Love thing. And he comes to San Francisco.
Look at Vish's face. So you said Rodgers is that look vicious, like.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Is Aaron Rodgers happy?
All right. Who didn't I get to, man? Jeez, now I'm all off. Jordan, did I get to you, Jordan, on this? All right, good.
I think you nailed it when you said that Jimmy is just too expensive to be a placeholder. If they keep Jimmy, I would hope that their plan, I don't hope this personally, but from a logical standpoint, from their decision making, you'd hope that they plan on keeping him for more than just this season to groom a rookie, because you will sacrifice tremendous cap flexibility to keep a guy to be a bridge guy. People always bring up Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith made half of what Jimmy did when he was in Kansas City the year that Mahomes sat behind him. And he was I know he had the leg injury and he had the thing he just won Comeback Player of the Year award for. But up to that point, he was a fairly durable quarterback too. You didn't have the durability concerns, and he cost half the price. So it's a bad comparison. Another thing that I've been kind of thinking about as you guys have been talking was, I know the seasons aren't identical because in 2017 nobody expected them to compete. Nobody had them in the same tier they are now. But we have to remember, Kyle Shanahan rolled into a season as the head coach, making these decisions, comfortable with Brian Hoyer starting as his quarterback. And I think that it was because he knew the system, veteran guy, he was cheap. So for me, if they're going to get a placeholder, I'm not saying that to expect a Brian Hoyer level player, but the fallacy that they need to keep Jimmy Garoppolo to be the placeholder and they won't be competitive if they lose him, I think is ridiculous. I think you guys made really points about Dalton. Is he a franchise guy? No. Is he going to put a team on his back? No. But if you surround him with weapons, is he going to push the ball downfield? Is he going to make proper reads? Is he going to come at a substantial discount? Yes, to all of those things. So I think that they're going to find a guy. I don't have a specific name, unfortunately. There's just too many out there. I think they'll find a guy that can come in for a fraction of the price. It just, from a monetary standpoint, regardless of how you feel about the play, It makes zero sense to retain a guy who hasn't been able to play 2 out of the last 3 years while sacrificing the flexibility to retain a player like a Trent Williams, to retain a player like a Jason Verrett. So I think that they will find a guy. Again, I'm not saying that they're going to bring in a player like Brian Hoyer, but I think that Kyle, if he's going to draft a rookie like a Trey Lance, I think he would have no issue bridging the gap with a player that the fan base may not like, because he may not be the most flashy name or the most talented player at this juncture, if that makes sense. Ideally, I'd like to see them go and get Justin Fields. I really like Justin Fields. Hobby's pointed out a bunch of times the connection that there is with the QB collective. I think that Kyle could do tremendous things with him. I think that he's somebody who could come in from day one and start. If you do give up the capital that we were discussing for Deshaun Watson, I don't think it would cost as much to move up to get Fields, but I feel far more comfortable moving a 1 and a future 1 to get a guy on a rookie deal, just because you get the 4 years of that flexibility. And one thing that Vish made a really good point about earlier was this financial maneuvering that they did for all these, all the genius labels that the 49ers front office gets. They're really just prorating deals and backloading contracts. And ultimately, the bill's going to come eventually. It's like putting stuff on layaway. It doesn't mean you're not paying for it. And the 49ers are in a position where the next couple of years, I think they would be so much better off having that rookie deal. And obviously, I think Lawrence is off the table. It'll be interesting to see where Fields and Wilson ends up. But to me, if you're going to trade the picks to move up, swing for the fences. And for me, I think with the connection to Shanahan and the ability and the talent that the guy has, for me, it's Justin Fields. So I think that they'll have, I think the situation with the Lance and, a veteran stopgap is more likely. But if I had my way, I would trade multiple 1s and maybe an additional 2nd or 3rd to go up and get Fields.
Okay. Javi?
The fan in me wants them to go get Deshaun Watson. The fan.
Yeah.
The more tempered fan in me says, hey, send number 12 to Detroit for Matthew Stafford. And then the more realistic option, I think people are going to hate me for this, and I'm not a Jimmy apologist, but I think it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo on a restructured contract where they push the money back a couple years and they still use pick 12 to take a rookie, because the Niners are scared. And that's kind of how I'm starting to view this front office. They are very scared to make a move off a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, whose record is what it is, 22-8, but he's missed so many games. It's hard for them to do that. And I think there's other things in play here outside of Kyle Shanahan when it comes to Parag Marathe, Jed York, John Lynch having some type of influence in that decision. So the fan in me says Deshaun. The less of a fan and more kind of an option that's possible is Stafford. And I think that might be the best option to go ahead and get Stafford. And I wouldn't even send this year's first. I send next year's first and still take a quarterback this year. That would probably be the way to go. And then, what probably does happen is Jimmy gets a restructured deal. They push some of his salary into bonus, and they're stuck with him at least until 2022. And then you go draft a guy like Trey Lance, who I think is going to fall. I don't think he's going to be gone before 12. I think he's going to be in that 12 to 18 range for picks, just because he doesn't have enough tape. He might show out in the combine. We all know combine interviews and things like that can push guys up and around all the time. But I think he's going to be in that 12 to 18 range. But I wouldn't be a huge fan of keeping Jimmy Garoppolo at that price, but it is what it is with this team. I think they're just too scared to move off of Jimmy Garoppolo right now. And it part of it though is timing. He has, I think his contract has that April 1st kicker. The draft is April 29th. It's just a timing thing, and it messes everything up. So hopefully they do something before April 1st. Maybe you can move Jimmy Garoppolo to New England. Maybe Chicago takes him. But I have a hard time seeing any team wanting to pay him what he's getting paid with all his injury concerns. And it's not like they're major injuries. Like a high ankle sprain shouldn't take 10 weeks, but the ACL is a concern. He did break a collarbone. So he has an injury history. And I don't think physically he's going to get any better. Mentally, he might get better. Maybe he does take a next step. But I just don't think that. And there's folks that I've talked to think he's a handsome moron, and that's kind of where they are with him. So, I think it'll be Jimmy on a restructured deal, and you go ahead and take pick 12, take a quarterback, or move up. But it's just a frustrating spot to be in. I think the Niners are scared to do anything.
I wouldn't mind being called a handsome moron.
I get that all the time. My wife says it.
Right. Like, my wife says that she's like, I didn't marry you for your brains. So I guess, yeah.
You see that haircut, bro?
Yeah. I mean, you got to do it for the wife sometimes, man.
And
Like,
extremely hard.
that I do this for other people. It's like, I want to walk in the house and my wife look at me and be like, yo, who ordered the snack? All right.
Real quick.
Final thoughts, anything that we want. Like, this was great, guys. Like, I'm so happy that we were able to hop on, and we'll get Leo on right here one more time, if we can. I don't know if he's still there. There he is. But any final thoughts on, I know that this is going to be discussed ad nauseum even more, but I felt like this was probably the best time for, us rational guys to come around and try to say it in an eloquent way, because I get yelled at a lot. Go ahead, Jordan, you're up.
I just want to say real quick, I understand what Javi's saying about them being scared to make a move. And I know people always talk about how they didn't scout Watson, they didn't scout Mahomes, they didn't do all these things. One thing that I kind of was thinking about coming in when Kyle Shanahan was first hired, the 49ers were coming off of 3 head coaches in the previous 3 seasons. There was not much stability within the organization. There was a lot of, distrust. There was a lot of things kind of that are different now, in my opinion. And the fact that he has that extension, and it's become extremely obvious how much more the 49ers need him than he needs them, in my opinion. I think maybe that gives him in the front office, whoever's making these decisions, Peters, Lynch, whoever it may be, a little bit more room to kind of swing big for a guy in the draft or swing big for a trade, getting a Stafford, a Dak, something like that. Because coming in, they didn't have the 6-year deals. I think that there was much less stability about them staying if they had missed on one of those. I think at this point they can swing for the fences, like I said, on one of those guys. And if it doesn't work out, I'm not sure that either of them are really, losing sleep at night over their job security because of how vital they've proven to be over the last 4 years that they've been here. So I'm wondering if maybe there's a little bit of a shift in philosophy, knowing that they have that long-term security now.
The other point, continuing with what he said, Kyle Shanahan's going to turn on the TV if he watches football for fun, and he sees Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay coaching in the playoffs, and he thinks, I'm better than these guys, yet I'm sitting at home with a worse record than both of them because my guys just can't stay healthy, my quarterback can't stay healthy, whatever. And I wonder if that pushes him to go for a more aggressive move, whether that's a veteran that can come in and win right away, or whether that's to trade up for a guy that he really loves. I feel like an aggressive thing is coming this offseason. I feel like just watching Kyle up close at every presser this year, he just looks exhausted. And I think it's got to be eating at him that they continue to lose despite having good talent on the roster and having good coaches.
Yeah, so I think Young Ty basically summed up this discussion perfectly. He said, one of Watson, Fields, Wilson, Stafford, and I'll be happy. I think that's the point that just about everybody's at, but we all agree it should be Stafford, right? I think we're all saying it's Stafford.
Of all
right?
of them? Yo, just for you, just because I love seeing you smile, Vish, just for you, I want Stafford in the Niners uniform.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd be so happy for Vish if that happened.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I'd be unreachable for a couple of days. People would ask me, where were you? I was on cloud 9. I was out on cloud 9.
We'll pitch in and buy a jersey.
Look, the game's about to start, so let's get out of here. Well, go ahead, Vish. Go ahead.
Real quick, I had one more point, and it's regarding the QB collective thing and Justin Fields. And I think a lot of people have put a lot of stock into it, not you guys, but fans in general. And now, Javi started a trend, and now everybody's looking at that QB collective. Just because Shanahan spent, one day in the summer in a camp with a guy doesn't mean he likes him. He's a very individual thinker. I think the 2017 draft emphasizes it the most. His buddy, Chris Sims, was the highest person on Patrick Mahomes in the media. He was calling Patrick Mahomes Aaron Rodgers at Texas Tech, and Kyle Shanahan had the second overall pick. They clearly have conversations about football, and Kyle Shanahan felt that Solomon Thomas was the best pick, regardless of what Chris Sims had to say. So at the end of the day, we can read into QB Collective. We can read into what people close to Kyle have to say, but Kyle is Kyle, and Kyle is going to make the decision based on his own thoughts and feelings ultimately.
For sure. So let's, great discussion, guys. So quarterback talk all on the timeline. We come on here, we talk quarterbacks. So what are we going to do after this? We're going to watch quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about quarterbacks on the timeline too. So you know what? To end this, let's go around. Let's go around the table. Who wins tonight? OSU or Bama? I'm going to start with Vish.
Bama.
Bama. Go ahead, Vish, my bad.
No, I was going to say OSU is not playing press bail versus those receivers, giving them free access. Sean Wade doing all of that is not the way to go.
Jordan?
Give me Ohio State on a last-minute drive by Justin Fields.
Woo! That's going to make him number 2 easily if he does that tonight. Javi?
Ohio State, Big Ten football, baby. Best conference in football.
Okay. Akash, I know you got money on it, so tell me.
After I lost last night on the Steelers, are you kidding me? God, I had like a parlay. I don't even want to talk about it.
You know what, Akash? You were so your tweet about it. I was like that's as fired up as I've ever seen Akash ever.
So mad. They no-showed completely. A bunch of frauds. Don't even want to go into it. Soft.
You're the DVOA man. They were the worst DVOA offense to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're playing a team without a head coach. I mean,
right.
Dude, don't even want to go there. But tonight, Bama covers the 9.5 points. Jalen Waddle back. Devontae Smith's there. Ohio State secondary stinks. They're not going to stop Bama's offense.
Leo.
And Javi, the best conference in college football is the AC. No, I can't even finish that sentence. But I'm going to go with Bama. My brother's actually an Ohio State fan, so I'm going against them on this reason. He's an Ohio State fan because they beat Miami in the national championship, and I'm a diehard Hurricane fan. So he was just laughing at my pain, and he became an Ohio State fan from there. But I think Bama's offense is just too good. As far as their passing game, running game, I don't think Sean Wade could cover the Heisman Trophy winner. I think he's going to just do what Chase did against, what's his name from Clemson? That's on the Raiders now.
AJ Terrell.
AJ Terrell. How he just made him look terrible. I think that's what it's going to happen to Sean Wade tonight. Hopefully, for his sake, I'm wrong.
Okay. I got Bama too. Devontae Smith is just too much, I think. But I wouldn't be. It would be fine for OSU. My brother went to OSU and graduated from there, so it would be fine if they won. And he's probably watching this right now. He's going to send me a dirty text message for even saying that Bama's going to win. But I think Bama's got it this week. So. Thank you guys again. This is fun. Like I said, I love being in a room with people that force me to think, and you guys all do that. This is gonna start to be something that I try to do weekly. We took a week off, right? Like we thought about doing this last week, but with everything going on, we were just like, let's take a week off and we can do this every week. If you guys are available, I'm with it. It's people seem to like it, and everybody likes everybody's insight here. And like I said, you guys are all my guys, so I'm with it every week if you guys are.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let me know.
For sure.
So I guess we don't have any last thoughts. Enjoy the game, guys. Make sure you follow everybody. Let me close this out so we can show everybody's ads one more time. So many comments. If we can find everybody's ads, so make sure you follow everybody on Twitter here. Join the discussion there. We're easy to reach on there. We basically respond to everybody as long as you're not saying anything crazy or anything like that. So enjoy the game. Make sure you follow all of these guys. They're top of the class on Niners Twitter. You're going to learn a lot from these guys just like I do. So, thank you guys for joining, and thank you for everybody watching, and enjoy the game.
Peace.
Appreciate it.